we live? Is this thing on? Good afternoon, everybody who is checking in, watching this. Shout out to everybody who's watching this on replay. This is Work on Your Game University TV that you are watching. As y'all are checking in, you can shout yourselves out, names and locations in the comment section. We're going to get started in 30 seconds. I ain't taking too long to give people time to come in here. I like to get right to the business here because we ain't got a lot of time. I got a call that I got to get on in about 40 minutes. So as y'all coming in, shout yourselves out, and we're going to get into this. Hope everybody's having a great summer. It's a hot summer. Here is like a heat wave going on across all of America right now. So everybody who's in the United States or Western Hemisphere, at least in the United States, it's been very hot. It's hot in South Florida. We've been in the 90s. We've been in the 90s for like 20 days straight. I like it. I love it. We get rain every couple of days in the afternoon. But if you've been in South Florida, you know the rain here, you don't get a whole day of rain. You get like 20 minutes of rain and it goes away. So if you were taking a nap, you wouldn't even know that it happened. But anyway, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Dre Baldwin. Many know me as Dre all day, former 9-year pro athlete, author of 33 books, done 4 TED Talks, created this whole brand called Work on Your Game. What we do here is we take the tools mentally and strategically to help athletes get to the top 1% of sports, and we apply them to the business world to help professionals like yourselves perform at your highest level, do so consistently, and as a result, make more money. So today what we're going to talk about is why this is specifically for the entrepreneurs, why your stuff is not working. There are 3 specific reasons why your stuff may not be working if you're an entrepreneur out there. Now, the framework that I'm going to give you here can apply to any of us at any given time, given your situation or circumstance, because the fact of the matter is nobody has everything working for them at all times. I don't care who somebody is or how great or how successful they've been. Nobody bats 1,000, all right, meaning nobody has everything working all the time. So someone may have something that is not working for them. If you follow the framework for this episode, whoever you are, you may be able to use what I'm going to share with you here today. You will be able to use this to diagnose what the actual issue is. Now, your ability to fix the issue, you may not have the ability to fix it yourself. But the good news is I'll tell you at the end of this live how you can get some help getting these things fixed. Because if you could fix the issue, then you probably wouldn't have the issue in the first damn place. That's the whole point. So let's get to it. Point number one reason why your stuff may not be working as an entrepreneur, especially those of you who are in the thought leadership space, but this can apply to any kind of business, is you don't know who you are talking to. In other words, you do not know your customer. You do not know your audience. You don't know who you're trying to reach. You have an idea of who you're trying to reach, and you think that they are one thing, but they're actually another thing. That's why your message is falling on deaf ears. They're not really hearing you, even though you're saying something. Any of you ever had that situation where, even on the consumer side, because all of us are consumers as well as being salespeople, right? As well as being practitioners, we're also consumers. Have you ever been in a situation where someone was trying to get a point across to you, but the way they were trying to get the point across, it just wasn't landing? Maybe you probably don't even remember because you weren't listening. All right, that's the whole point. All right, the way they were trying to get the point across just wasn't working, so you didn't really hear it, even though what they had to offer would have been very beneficial for you. But because they failed to communicate the message in such a way that would get your attention, you never heard what they had to say. I mean, you heard it, but you weren't listening because they didn't know who you were. So they weren't speaking to the right conversation. Thing about being in the entrepreneurship space as a salesperson, and we're all salespeople, is your job is to enter the conversation that's going on in the mind of your target consumer. So whoever you're trying to sell to, you have to talk to them in the language that they're speaking. You got to talk about what they're thinking about. You got to speak to their challenges. And if you speak to the wrong challenge, or you speak about it in the wrong way, or your context is just not right, your syntax is off, then your message is going to miss the mark, even though your product could actually solve their problem. So let's say I make a product, I start a sneaker line, and I have some shoes that would be great for a certain percentage of the population, but I don't talk about my product in a way that gets those people's attention, then my product's not going to sell, and I'm going to end up going out of business, not because there's anything wrong with my product, but because something's wrong with my marketing. See, the conversation that you're having with your audience is about marketing. Marketing is simply the relationship you have with your audience. And if you can't communicate, you can't have a relationship. Any of you ever had a relationship fall apart because the communication just failed, a failure in communication? That's the main reason why any relationship falls apart, is because of failure in communication. People just stop wanting to talk about certain topics. People stop talking, period. Some of you had people that you used to be friends with 5 years ago. You're not friends anymore because you and that person just stopped communicating. You just stopped calling them. They stopped calling you. Y'all haven't texted each other. Y'all ain't seen each other. And now it's been 5 years. You haven't talked to the person. Why? The communication simply fell apart. Some of you have had intimate relationships, boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife. The relationship fell apart simply because the two of you stopped communicating, or you didn't want to communicate, which led you stopping communicating on certain subjects or about certain things. Maybe something happened, y'all don't want to talk about it anymore. Certain things were occurring, y'all were talking about it all the time, but the communication wasn't going smoothly. A failure in communication always leads to a dissolution of a relationship. Let me say that again. A failure in communication always leads to the dissolution of a relationship. Any of you who's in a relationship, any kind of relationship, business partnership, friendship, or intimate relationship, where the communication is strong, even if you're not always agreeing, but there's constant communication and good faith communication on both ends of the relationship, usually those relationships last. When there's solid communication, even when there's disagreements, but both sides are operating and kind of communicating in good faith, you're trying to make it work, usually those relationships will continue. But the communications where there's always back and forth bickering and arguing, and there's a whole lot of negative energy flowing into communication, or just no communication at all, those relationships fall apart. Those are the people who you stop talking to. It's been 2 years and you haven't spoken to that person, and neither one of you has made an attempt to speak to the other one. Those relationships fall apart. I just had a friend of mine who I hadn't talked to in like 2 years reach out to me. It was more than 2 years. Reach out to me just the other day. They texted me like 3 days ago and said, "Hey, Dre, I know we hadn't talked in a couple of years, but I wanted to reach out to you and just clear the air because the last time we had a communication, I don't like the way it went, and let's talk." And they reached out to me. We had a conversation, and it's all good. That's how communications remain. But when you don't do that, then the communications fall apart. And what does this have to do with entrepreneurship? Is that understanding marketing is how you get the attention of the people who might become your customers. You cannot have a customer if you don't communicate with them, whether you're sending an email, a text message, social media, you're having a live conversation, you're meeting them in person, you're doing a live event, you're doing Zoom calls, texting, whatever it is you're doing. If there is no communication, you cannot do business. And if your communication is not hitting people where they need to be reached at, they won't even notice that you're trying to communicate with them. Therefore, there can be no relationship. Therefore, there can be no sale. Therefore, there's no money exchange. Therefore, you have no business and you end up going out of business. So everybody understand this? So when it comes to your customer or client, your ideal person, you must know, who are you serving? How are you serving them? Who are you helping? How are you helping them? Many entrepreneurs make the mistake. This is the mistake many entrepreneurs make. You decide what you want to do, and then you try to figure out who should want it. You should do this the opposite way. Figure out who has a problem that you can solve, and then tailor your solution to fit their problem, so that your communication is talking directly to where they're at and exactly what they need. And you tailor your stuff to their desires instead of trying to tailor their desires to your stuff. You get what I'm saying here? So it's like if I created a course on mindset, right? If I create a course on mindset, I don't want to go create the whole course on mindset and then try to get you to want my course on mindset. Instead, what I should do is find out what are your biggest challenges with mindset. And when I get all the information from you as to what your biggest challenges are with mindset, I should make my course based on what you told me, so that I know exactly what I put out is exactly what you need, because you told me exactly what the problem was. So my course is specifically tailored to the needs of the people that I've been talking to. But if I make a course based on what's in my head and then I try to get you to want it, it might not work. My communication might not work simply because my course is based on my idea instead of being based on your idea. If I want to sell, I should base it on what you need instead of based on what I need. So when you think more about what you are doing or what you're offering or what your product is, more than you're thinking about what the customer actually wants, then you're going to always run into problems. Create your solutions based on the needs of your audience. And the way that you do that is you have to actually communicate with the audience. You see how we come right back to the same point. This is why you communicate with your audience. The good news for the world that we're in today is that you can communicate with your audience without leaving your home. You can do it right through your phone like I'm doing right now. You can do live streams. You can do a live stream 10 times a day if you want to. You can post on social media 10 times a day if you want to. You can send emails all day if you want to. You can get on apps like Clubhouse and apps like anywhere where you can do live engagement. Twitter has Twitter Spaces, Instagram has live, YouTube has live. Almost every app has some kind of live function nowadays. And you can actually have live discussions and interactions with your audience. I got a text message community where people, any of you who's in my text community, I'll put the number to my text here. Any of you who's not getting my text, I send out this daily motivation text every single day. So you want to get this message, just text me at this number. But any of you who gets these texts, if you respond to one of those texts, I probably will text you back. And why do I text you back? Is it because I ain't got nothing to do and I just want somebody to talk to? No, it's because I want to talk to the people who are in my world. I want to talk to them. I want to find out what your challenges are, what your needs are. What are you thinking about? What's going on in your mind? What questions are people asking? Because it gives me an idea as to what I'm going to do next. Now, it doesn't mean just because you ask me a question, I'm going to make a course about your question. But the whole point is, the more I talk to the people in my audience, the better feel I get for what people want. And these are the people who are paying attention to me, right? So the better I know that, the open lines of communication allow me to know who my client or customer is. And that helps me better tailor my material, whether that's the free stuff I put out or the stuff that I put out that's for sale. So this is the open lines of communication. Understand, everybody, again, marketing is simply the communication that leads to the relationship that you have with your audience. If you have no communication with your audience, you have no relationship. There's no relationship, there can be no sale. You can make no money. Number two, we're talking here today why your stuff is not working when it comes to your entrepreneurship. Number two, you don't know what people want. And again, this goes right back to the communication point. This is the guessing game that many entrepreneurs play, is that they guess what their customers want. You should not be guessing what your customers want. You should never be guessing what your customers want. You should know exactly what they want. Why? Because you're talking to them. You should know what your customers want because you're talking to them. They should be telling you. Just ask them. If you just ask people what do they want, they will tell you. Now, you might not like the answers, and you might get some answers that you were not expecting, but you will get answers if you simply ask people open-ended questions. They will give you their answers. They'll give you their feedback. If you look on social media, you'll notice what's going on. The May New Wave. You may notice that the comment section is like a very popular part of social media. Like when social media, I was on social media when it first came out. Like before they were calling it social media, I was on social media. Comment section was not as active 15 years ago as it is now. Now, people go to the internet just to go to the comment section. They don't even post nothing. They just go to the comments, see what everybody else has to say, and they're looking in the comment section. But there's a lot of not knowledge. That's not the best word. There's a lot of feedback in the comment section that you as an entrepreneur can benefit from if you pay attention. So you got to pay attention to what's going on in the comment section when it's your material, because the people in your comments are engaging with your stuff. They didn't just watch your stuff or read it. They cared enough to actually say something. And whatever it is that they say is telling you something if you pay attention. And sometimes you got to read between the lines. Sometimes you might have to ask for more information. But if you pay attention, then you'll get a feel for where people are at and what they want based on the comments that they are leaving. So engagement is a very important part of social media. We know this, right? Engagement is a part. Any of you who's a publisher, you post on social media, like you make content, you know that engagement is a big thing. So if people leave more comments, your stuff gets seen by more people because it's comments on it, which signals to the algorithm that there's action on this post. That means they should show it to more people, and then your numbers go up and you get more followers and stats and et cetera, views and all that, depending on what app that you're on. And so you want engagement. Okay. You want engagement. This removes the guessing game as an entrepreneur as to what people want when you have engagement. And understand that engagement doesn't just have to be comments on the internet. You can get engagement by making cold calls and asking questions, letting people answer your questions. Somebody doesn't buy your product, ask them why they didn't buy it. All right, that's engagement. Whatever their answer is, they're telling you what the situation is. That's giving you more information. So you as an entrepreneur should never be playing the guessing game about what people want. You should know what they want because you are engaging with them and letting them tell you. This is why you need to be active in talking to the people who are in your audience. So you want to have as many ways for them to engage with you as possible. That does not mean you have to respond to every comment. Doesn't mean you got to have an ongoing conversation with everybody who's texting you, or you got to write back a paragraph to everybody who sends you an email. I don't do those things, but I read the comments. I see the people who text me back. I read the emails that people send back to me. Doesn't mean I respond to every single one of them, but I know what's going on. All right. So you got to know what's going on in your world so that you're not playing a guessing game. When you know exactly what your target audience wants, then it's easy for you to give them what they need because you know exactly what they're looking for. All right. There's no guess. So there are some people out there who can come out with something before other people tell them what they want, and they are actually right. So you think of a Steve Jobs. The iPhone was not something that customers were asking for, but Steve Jobs had this vision. He created the iPhone, and now everybody has one. Henry Ford. People were not asking for a car, a motor powered vehicle. They were asking for, because back then, before the motor powered vehicle came to America, what people did to get around is that they had horses and buggies. So you ever see the old TV shows where people have the horse and the horse is pulling the cart, and that's how people got around. And Henry Ford said, if I asked people what they wanted, they would have said, well, I want a horse that can go a little bit faster. But instead, he made a motor-powered vehicle instead of a horse-powered vehicle, and people thought he was crazy, but he was a visionary. He ended up being right. Most of us don't have that rare talent to where we can visualize what people want before they ask for it and then go create it. Now, you can try that if you want, but I can't help you with that because I don't think I'm that much of a genius. Steve Jobs and Henry Ford were geniuses in that way. The rest of us, the simple thing we can do is just look around at what people already know that they want, that they are not getting, and then you can serve that. You can basically step into the breach and give them something that doesn't already exist. So if you're not a genius, you don't have to be a genius. All you got to be is observant enough to see what people want, give them that, and they will give you money. All right. So if your aim is not to be a genius, you just want to make some money, all you got to do is what I just told you. All right. So you don't have to come up with a brand new thing out of nowhere. The first product that I ever sold on the internet was basketball training. I was selling basketball training programs. Like, first two programs I ever made was a shooting program and a dribbling program for basketball players. Now, I did not invent basketball. I didn't invent putting basketball training programs out. People were doing it. They weren't really doing it through the internet at that time because this was relatively new. I didn't invent putting basketball videos on the internet. That I do take credit for that. But the whole point here is, when it comes to being an entrepreneur, is that all I did was put a bunch of basketball stuff out, and I had a bunch of basketball players following me. And then I would read the comments, I would read my emails, and these players, I could see they wanted someone to teach them how to play, teach them how to practice. I didn't create that. I didn't come up with that out of nowhere. All I did was listen to my audience. I had an open line of communication, which was, I post something online and I read the comments. That was the line of communication. That was it. This was not a complex system. Okay, everybody understand that? There was no complex system to it. I post a video on YouTube and I'll read the comments. That's it. And by reading the comments, I knew what my audience wanted. So then all I did was go get the information on how can I create a product? How can I sell it on the internet? How do I set this up? I had to go get some information on that because I didn't know how to do it. I learned how to do that. I applied it and I started making money on the internet that fast. And this whole process, as soon as I got the idea to do it, this whole process took like 72 hours. And I started making money on the internet. That's when I became an entrepreneur. And this is, again, I'm not telling you that to impress you, but to impress upon you. I didn't do anything that you can't do. It was simply just paying attention to who my audience was, paying attention to what my audience wanted, giving them what they wanted, and they were willing to give me what I wanted. I gave them what they wanted, which was they wanted to learn how to practice basketball, and they saw I was someone who could teach it. And they gave me what I wanted, which was my first products were $4.99. $4.99. That's where I started as an entrepreneur. So pay attention, have the open lines of communication. You should know exactly who your customers are, exactly what they want. That's the second one. Number 3, reason why things don't work when you're an entrepreneur is that you are navel gazing. And what navel gazing means, those you never heard of that, it means you're just focusing on your own desires. Navel gazing just means you're looking at yourself too much, but you're not looking at your audience. So as a salesperson, as an entrepreneur, number one person you need to be paying attention to when you're in sales mode is you got to pay attention to the person who you want their money. Person you want them to open their wallet and buy something from you, you got to pay attention to them. Because when you give them what they want, they will give you what you want. Simple as that. Okay, so this is a big challenge to entrepreneurs because a lot of entrepreneurs, we get started in entrepreneurship because we're thinking about ourselves, right? We're thinking about, and I talk to entrepreneurs every day. So entrepreneurs tell me every day, Dre, I don't want somebody telling me what to do. I don't want to work for someone else. I don't want to be under somebody else's thumb. I don't like not making the kind of money that I want to make. I don't like my coworkers. People at my job be hating on me. I hear this from entrepreneurs every single day, or want to be entrepreneurs every single day. I hear this from people all the time. So one of the main reasons that many of us become entrepreneurs is because we are thinking about our own personal desires. We're thinking about ourselves. But understand, when you get into entrepreneurship, the number one thing that's going to help you move forward faster is to not think about you, but to think about the person who you're trying to serve. Because when you give them what they want, they will give you what you want. Okay, so you got to get out of that focusing on me mode and focus on them. Because when you help other people, they will help you back. All right. This is the law of karma. You give people what you put out is what you get back. Right. So if you help a whole bunch of other people, then other people will help you, and they don't even have to be thinking about it. They'll just be willing to do it. Because think about it yourself as a consumer. You pay money, you happily will spend money on something that is giving you exactly what you want, right? You're happy to spend money on things that give you what you want. All right. You go to a movie and the movie was great. You're glad you spent $16 to go to the movie. Or you go to a restaurant and you had an amazing time. You're glad to spend $50 on that meal, right? So anytime you're getting something that you want, you're happy to spend money on it. So guess what? Your customers are the exact same way. If you're giving them exactly what they want, they will gladly give you money. So getting money, out of your customers is not some struggle. It's not some bad thing. You're not quote unquote taking from them. This is a happy exchange. They are happy to give you money because you are giving them something that they want. So they are glad. They are satisfied with giving you money, and they will actually give you more money if you give them even more of what they want. So you just got to figure out what that is from the right person, because not everybody in your audience is your ideal customer. You got to know who they are. And as soon as you give them what they want, they'll give you what you want, and everybody's happy. All right, this is called the economy. They give you money, you give them the thing that you want, you take that money and you go do stuff. You get things that you want, and everybody just keeps doing this. And this is how we have a strong economy. And when people stop doing this is what they call that a recession. And if it happens for too long, it's called a depression, because there is no circulation of money going around. So the more money that gets circulated, the stronger the economy is. And you know what makes a strong economy run? Entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs make a strong economy. You took all the entrepreneurs away, there'd be no economy, because you have no innovation. You have nobody coming up with new ideas and new ways to make money move. Entrepreneurs make the economy run. So do never be fooled into thinking there's something wrong with an entrepreneur. Entrepreneurs only is selfish and only out for themselves. That's ridiculous. That couldn't be further from the truth. It's actually the opposite. Entrepreneurs are what make the economy move. They're what make money move. So the better you get at learning how to make money move, if you just follow these points here, you reverse engineer these points that I'm giving you here, the more you are actually helping the economy. And this is why, and if you knows anything about the cash flow quadrant Robert Kiyosaki talked about, if you don't, I'll make it real simple for you. Entrepreneurs and investors get treated the best by the government when it comes to taxation, and employees get treated the worst by the government when it comes to taxation. So any of you who has a full-time job, like you get paid W-2, you get treated worse by the government than entrepreneurs and investors, simply because you're not out there, you're not making the money move. Entrepreneurs and investors make the money move. That's why they get the biggest tax breaks. That's just a fact. And employees get taxed at the highest rate simply because you're not the ones who are making money move. So if you want to pay less money in taxes, you want to keep more of your money every year, every April, when you pay those taxes, become an entrepreneur. Even if you're not a full-time entrepreneur, become an entrepreneur and an investor, and talk to your accountant. Don't take anything I'm saying as tax advice, but talk to your accountant and learn how to protect more of your money that you get to keep, that can go to you and your family and your kids, instead of going to the government, which is pretty much mostly gets wasted because government is very inefficient. They give breaks to the entrepreneurs and investors, because entrepreneurs and investors are the ones who make money move in the economy. And when money moves in the economy, that makes the government look good. You know how the government, when there's a downturn in the government, people go attack the president. Oh, this president's terrible. Look how terrible the economy is. You hear them say that every time there's an election, right? So presidents like it when there's money moving, because that makes the economy strong. It makes them look good. It gives people jobs. They don't want a high unemployment rate because that makes them look bad. Guess who creates jobs? Who makes jobs? Entrepreneurs. When an entrepreneur starts a business, they go hire employees. Employees mean fewer people are unemployed, which makes the president and the bigger government look good. So they're happy for entrepreneurs. They like entrepreneurs. Everybody understand this? So all you entrepreneurs, many entrepreneurs in general fail because they don't know when to engage their ego versus when to shut their ego down. So put your ego aside and focus on the customer. Focus on the person you want to serve. So being an entrepreneur is not all about you, and it is about you at the same time. So you have to balance this. You got to learn this balance. You are the main person as a salesperson, but just because you have a great idea doesn't mean people want to buy it. So your idea needs to be tailored to who your customer is. And in other words, base your idea on what the customer wants, not what you want to give them. All right, everybody got that? All right, let me recap these points real quick. Anybody got a question, put it in the comment section. I'll address it real quick. If you got a question, put it in the comment section. We are talking entrepreneurs why your stuff does not work. What causes your stuff to not work as an entrepreneur? If you have a question or comment, put it in the comments right now while I recap these points, and then we're going to wrap up. So entrepreneurs, number one, you don't know who you are talking to. You don't know who your customer is simply because you are not communicating with your audience. Great news about the world we're in today with social media is that it's very, very, very easy to communicate with your audience. All you have to do is create content so that people know that you exist. We got podcasts, we got video content, you got written content. You can put pictures up there. You can put texts up there. You can get on Twitter. Now they're going to call it X. Elon Musk is going to change the name to X. So you got Twitter, you got YouTube, you got TikTok, you got podcasting, you got all the other ones, Snapchat, all of those things. You can have a text community where people can text you. Like I got one. So you got all these different avenues for communicating with your audience. Don't forget email. You even got physical mail. Physical mail is still a real thing. Those of you who don't know that, there are people who actually sell stuff by sending physical mail to people's actual mailboxes. That is a real thing. You can do that as well. The whole point is open lines of communication. When there's no communication, there's no relationship. There's no relationship. There's no marketing. There's no marketing. There's no sales. No sales means no money. And no money means no business. Number two, you don't know what your customer wants. The reason you don't know what they want is because you are not paying attention. Your customers will tell you what they want. They engage with you if you give them an opportunity to do so. This is why you should be reading. This is why you should be reading the comments section on everything that you put out. Even if you don't respond to all the comments, you should read the comments. Like I get text messages. I send a text message out every day. I read the responses that people send. I don't reply to every response, but I read them because I want to know what people are saying. Because these are people who are tuned into my stuff. So I want to know what they have to say. So I'm reading those all the time. I'm reading the comments section. I'm reading the emails that I get. I read the DMs that I get. Again, it doesn't mean you have to respond to every single person, but you should be looking at them. And if you're relatively new, like I started posting content on the internet in 2005. I read and responded to every comment for 10 years. That's a fact. Like every single comment, email, I respond to almost everything I got. Even when somebody asked a dumb question, I would still respond to it because these are people in my audience, and it was giving me information. It was giving me feedback as to who my audience was and what my audience wanted. You need to know what that is because you don't want to be out here flying blind trying to figure out what your audience wants and guessing. You shouldn't be guessing. You should know. And number three, you're navel gazing. You're focusing too much on yourself and not focusing on your customer. When you focus on your customer, then you'll be giving them exactly what they want. And when you give people what they want, they will give you what you want. This is the law of reciprocity. Human beings, this is ingrained in us. And when someone does something nice for you, you want to do something nice for them. Someone's giving you what you want to buy something. You want to pay for it. Why? Because they're giving you what you want. Why would you not? So that's the way it works. Think about yourself as a consumer. You do the same thing. So you should know exactly who your customer is. You should be communicating with them consistently. They should know how to communicate with you consistently. And you should be giving them exactly what they want. And that will cause them to give you what you want. And that's how you have a business. So with all that, let me see what I got here. Journey Rain said, I look forward to the text every morning. I appreciate you. Appreciate all y'all who get the text. If you're not getting my daily motivation text that I send out for free every single day, I'm going to put the number in the comments section right now. That's the number right there. So if you want to get my daily motivation text every day, just send me a text to that number, 305-384-6894. And tomorrow morning when I send out the daily motivation, you'll be getting it. And every day, as long as I keep that text message going. And Jakari says, do I have any advice on the consistency part of it? When it comes to content creation, is you want to put a structure in place. In other words, you need a system for putting out content consistently. So that means you just got to put a process in place. So process, a system for putting out your content. And you want to, I got a podcast episode where I talked about that. So if you're not tuned in, Jakari, to the Work on Your Game podcast, go to workonyourgamepodcast.com or just go to Spotify or Apple and just look up Work on Your Game and you'll see the show. And I put that show out every single day. That will help you. And I have episodes where I talk about that, the process that I use for creating content. I got a whole process for content creation. That's how I keep it going. And even when I do these lives, I already know what I'm going to talk about. I don't just turn this on and start talking. Sometimes I do, depending on the subject. But most of the time, I know what I'm talking about because I have a ton of content. I got a whole library full of content that I can choose from. So anytime I turn on these lives, I just pick a topic and talk about it. And DeMay said, what episode talks about getting your content out there? What episodes? There should be episodes with an S on it. And I talk about content in 50 different episodes. So DeMay, go to workonyourgamepodcast.com. And at the bottom of the page, I have a list of every episode in the history of the show. So you just go through there. You can just scroll through and you can find all those episodes where I talk about content. And then on that same page, all the episodes are there. So you can listen to any one of them. So use the search function and just type in the word content. So if you're on Apple, it's Command F. That means find, and just type in the word content. And if you're on a PC, then I think it's Control F, and then just use the find and type in the word content. It'll tell you the episode. Then you can just scroll up on the page and listen to that episode. So every episode in the history of my podcast is on one page, workonyourgamepodcast.com. So you can listen to everything right there. So daily motivation text, I got that. Work on Your Game University. That's where all my courses are. All my highest level frameworks, all my tactical deep dive trainings are inside the university, and also coaching. So people sometimes ask, Dre, do you offer any kind of coaching and things like that? And the answer is yes. I offer it in one place. That is at workonyourgameuniversity.com. That's the link right there. It's also the pin link or the bio link that I have here on Instagram. So you got the text number to get my daily motivation text podcast. It's called Work on Your Game. Just look it up on Apple or Spotify. We put it on YouTube as well as on SoundCloud also. But workonyourgamepodcast.com has the links to everything. And then Work on Your Game University, that's where I do all my coaching. All right, everybody, I will be doing another live tomorrow morning. I'll be live at 8 o'clock on the dot. That'll be simulcast with Breakfast with Champions on Clubhouse. I'll be doing an hour tomorrow. And I'll let the audience on Clubhouse vote and pick the topics. But I'll be doing it live on Instagram as well. And that's that. Everybody have a great afternoon. I got some sales calls I got to get on today. So let's get it going. Work on your game. Be out.